Okay, so I'm recording, so we're good, Aaron, if you're ready.
Sure. Shannon, is there anything that you need to say first? You want to wrap up things at the end, or?
Yeah, I can wrap up at the end, but thank you guys for joining us. I'm excited to hear what Aaron has to share with us. We appreciate it, Aaron. So yeah, I'll just let you start going.
Sure. It's good to see a bunch of familiar names on this chat tonight, and so I appreciate you taking time. What I thought I would do in this follow-up call, I know some of you just got it just today, but some of you finally were able to get your kits. I know last time not everybody had a chance to do that. So what I thought I would do is just kind of start off with just a couple tips or tricks of real simple things, nothing too complex, for you to kind of think about, and maybe some things just to have in your arsenal, especially when you're doing your workshop. And then open it up to, obviously, questions that you have. And so as opposed to just me droning on the whole entire time, as you have questions and things like that, I'll try to catch it in the chat while I'm going. And we'll kind of go from there and make sure we can kind of meet some of your needs. And just like last time, if you want to jump on a specific call and want to do something just one-on-one and more specific questions, we can definitely do that as well beyond this call here. So I'm not going to do a whole lot from the last session because that's been recorded, but just basic, quick little 30-second recap here. You obviously have the Makey. Hopefully you've seen that now. It looks like an old Nintendo controller. And the way I explain it to when I work with teachers or students is this is just a keyboard. It's a programmable keyboard. It allows us to create a lot of input commands to allow us to do our coding and make things happen and come alive. And so that's kind of like the best way to do that. And obviously you have your up, down, right, left buttons. Your mouse click and space bar, just right here. These are your ground. It would be your negative to complete circuits, which hopefully by now you've kind of figured out how that works. And when you get beyond the basics, there's all these extra options on the back, which we're going to explore some of those here tonight as we get rocking and rolling. So the first thing that I wanted you to think about, and I know I mentioned this last time, one of the great things to do with kids, especially starting out, and also to recommend to teachers, is when you're thinking about creating the circuits, the easiest way is to use the human body as the switch for the connection. So for us, if you're married or wear jewelry, we can always just clip right onto the ring, so you're always connected. For students, I always recommend, it's always a fun little beginner project for them to make their own ring or necklace or wristband using construction paper, cardboard, foil, and that really gets them starting to think about what's conductive and what's an insulator. And then that way they can just alligator clip right to that device. And so a lot of times when I'm prototyping and building with Makey, I just clip it right to my ring. And so that way then whatever I touch for my sensors, the circuit's completed, as opposed to always making sure we have this kind of fluidness going. And kids really like that, just to kind of create their own little devices. And so some will just do a real simple cardboard wrapped in foil. And I've seen really, really crazy, intricate designs. Depending on your workshop and the time that you have, I've done some workshops where we've started off with that. And that's kind of how teachers start to like explain their superpower and things like that. And it's kind of fun to do it that way as well. And so, yeah, you can definitely think between the thumb and pointer finger. That's always fun. It's kind of like licking the battery at the same time. That always gets everybody going too. It's a good icebreaker to wake everybody up for sure. And so there's that. A couple other things that I think are kind of neat to think about in your arsenal. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of the pictures and links and videos of what we've done with teachers. But one of the things I always love to have on standby, I usually have like a bin that I take with me of just random materials that are cheap or things that I have left over. But a great object, and we could brainstorm ideas for days, is plastic eggs. So there is a project in the Flipgrid, and I think it's in the Google Photo shared album that I put into Teams. Well, we use these as buttons. So these work really well to create interactive displays where we would just some simple foil, you can wrap these eggs up, and now you've got interactive controls. And so this works really well, especially with younger kids. Any kids really, because it doesn't require a whole lot of materials. Oh, wait, you guys aren't seeing my, oh, geez, I am so sorry. Let's see here. Why is that not showing?
Hey, maybe I have to give you control or something. I don't know. You think?
So you guys can't see me at all or anything?
No.
And what about now?
The list as an attendee. Oh, good. There you go. You just moved them up.
Oh, there we go, Aaron. Yes.
You can see the ugliness now?
Look, you even got your shirt on. I love it.
And I've just been talking to the man in the mirror, I guess. So, all right. So I apologize. You weren't seeing me. I apologize for that. So we were just talking about the plastic eggs, which hopefully you were able to figure that out. And what we just talked about with especially young kids and even with educators, because it's cheap and easy, is just wrapping these up. And then these work as really awesome buttons. And so you have this, and then you can alligator clip, and we'll do some demos here and let you explore. These work really well. You can hot glue within cardboard and create different controls, and an easy way to make some really awesome gamepad controllers with kids. And so a lot of times you can buy these on the cheap, especially after Easter. I buy these in bulk for a couple bucks, and you've got all you need. And so there is a project that a teacher used these shared in the team that you can take a look at. And so just think about things that you have sitting around in your classroom or your house. And it's a good conversation piece with educators to think about can we create a lot of potential items without spending much of any money at all. And so this is the beauty of the Makey is to make these types of things happen, because now we can weave these. I could trace this, carve this out, stick it into this cardboard, and I could have a whole entire control set that we could use and touch. And then the alligator clips clip onto the backside, and this can all be hidden. So now you're really starting to create some professional looking displays, and it's really, really easy for kids to make. You can just trace that. You could hot glue it or tape it, whatever you'd want to do. So you have that option. Another thing, some of you, I don't know if you had a chance to do any of the self-paced objectives, but one in there is making the one button switch. And so this is just using the copper tape, and I really recommend this foil tape that you use around like your dryer vents and things like that. It's cheaper than the cheap little copper tape. It's easier for kids to handle. You can cut this in a variety of ways, and so this is what I always bring. I do bring some copper tape, but it just gets so expensive in the long run. So these you can just run right on cardboard, and then we just cut it out. And it works really well. And so when you do your workshops and you start to experiment with this, they will figure this out pretty quick. The one button switch, in which you just have a little buffer, just like so, as we've seen in the workshop. And then you just alligator clip those on, and then you can have your one button switch, and you can do Flappy Bird. But what I like to do in there is take it to another way and have them create another controller, another switch. And so we can do a variety of different things with this, because it's important for them to see it doesn't always have to be cardboard, because what will happen is they'll automatically go to cardboard again. So if you move into the 4-button switch that's also in there, which is a really great challenge, because they really have a hard time figuring out how to separate the foil for separate connections, they'll resort to cardboard again, which is fine for the sake of a workshop. But I think it's really important, the more I do this, for them to see that there's other options. And so here's one, just thinking about just construction paper, where I would alligator clip off to each of the sides. It's just 3 pieces of construction paper, and I simply just have a little cutout in this one. And so now we can start to create more smaller, even cheaper. If you don't even have cardboard, you can do this with note cards. I mean, you can do this with anything you have around your classroom. And so I think it's also just good to help them see and have conversation around their other materials, because in their heads, if they've never done this before, they'll think it always has to be cardboard. Cardboard works the best, but we can do a lot of things. You can cut up old folders, things like that, locker clean out. You can get a lot of different things that way. So those types of things I think are pretty important to work with teachers. The other thing that I've just started messing around with, and we're going to do some stuff with LEDs, because there tends to be some confusion around LEDs, but something that I love is buying these little styrofoam balls that you can get like at an art or craft store. You can buy them online, a big bag for I don't know, $5 or $6. But what I like about this, when you start messing with the LEDs, when you get an LED to light up, yeah, it's pretty cool. We like things that light up and bling and everything else. But we can take things to a whole new level because these foam balls create like a diffuser. And I know it's kind of hard to see. It's really kind of bright there. But you can create some really amazing projects with this. And so now you can kind of think about ways in which we can diffuse light to really ratchet up our projects a little bit more. And so this is cool, and we can link it to a Makey and all that good stuff. Bringing it to this, we start thinking about solar systems. We start thinking about focal points. We had a teacher build the Oregon Trail. And so she created 3 key stations, and the kids were going to fill in the rest of the important marks along the way. These are perfect for like trees, different kind of things like that. So not earth-shattering, but it's something that as I continue to build through this, people just love it. They just absolutely love these. And I don't, I can't explain it. I don't have any research behind it, except for they just do. So you've got all that. The other thing that I wanted to show you is another thing. It's not necessarily directly Makey related, and I do have a video on it, but people love this as well. So we start to think about light and how can we layer on the Makey, because people are going to take it a lot of different directions. And I can't remember if I shared this in the first one or not, but I have bought a bunch of these cheap chalk. You can find our gummy. Be careful. Hurts. Hurt yourself. Nice story about. But you. And as it's cooling, you stick an LED into the hot glue mold. So this is a name tag that I make when I do some of my workshops. But then what you can do is same kind of thing like the styrofoam ball. And kids will want to make 500 of these. Teachers will too. When we start to mess around with our Makey, and we start to program in Scratch or anything else, the hot glue will light up. And so this will be red. I know it's a little blurry here in the screen. So now we can start to think about creating characters, think about symbols and metaphors in the projects that they're making, and they can easily have things light up as they're trying to tell a story or create some sort of presentation of their learning with the Makey, and Scratch programming or things like that. Hot glue is a very cheap way to do that. And then you can even do hot glue in other colors, get different colored glue sticks if you didn't want clear. So you've got that as well. The other thing, two important things that you're going to need that I think will be important in your journey as well as working with teachers. Something that I just started buying, I wish I would have known about this about a year ago. I don't know about this, but you can buy these wires that have a male lead on one side and an alligator clip on the other. And why this is so great, this eliminates having to strip wire, and eliminates soldering, especially if you're working with people that are brand new. So what you can do then is the male lead, you can plug into the back here in any of these options. And now I can still clip, I'm still prototyping, so I could clip this right to my foil. And I don't have to cut wire. Yes, the Makey comes with those little white wires I can plug in the back, an alligator clip, but those fall off all the time. I get really frustrated with it. So I have resorted to just buying these. And these have just been an absolute lifesaver as I'm building out different projects and trying to keep some people's sanity. So just another little thing that I've kind of learned through trial and error and just messing with things. Actually, we're using this with circuit playgrounds, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Maria, I'll put a link in. I do have a link. I'll stick it in after the call here. So I get them off Adafruit, but I'm sure there's probably cheaper versions. I use educator discount at Adafruit. You get 10% off all your orders, so it all kind of balances out. So this is just something that a recent discovery that hopefully won't take you a year to find out and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they had those. So the other thing is this, and I will put a link for this wire as well. People are going to start to create projects that are going to go beyond the length of the standard alligator clip. And so they're going to want to create big displays. So we've done things in schools where it's extended the entire hallway. We've done all these types of things. People are going to start to brainstorm these ideas. And so having some cheap spool wire, making sure it's the wire that's just, it's a single, it's not a cord that's wrapped, because then you do have to do some soldering. You can use these and you can run your wire as long as you want to then plug into the Makey. So you can have a thing where the Makey or the coding in the computer is in the classroom, but you could wire it where it's out in the hallway and you could hide those wires. People will start to come up with these ideas where they're not comfortable leaving a device in the hallway for people to knock over or break. And so you can start to have these conversations. And I like to have these on standby as we do some of the projects so they can start to experiment with that, because a lot of people have never stripped a wire before. So they don't even know what that is, just to strip off the insulator to get it into the Makey and things like that. And then you can just alligator clip this in. The other thing that's really nice about this, and then we'll get into a project, is as you start to think about moving with LEDs, because once you start to get buttons that work, and you've got all these things, people are going to want to start to do more. And people like things to light up. You can strip off more of the insulator. And so what I can do is I could plug this into the back of the Makey for my ground or for the key out. And say I want to light up 6 lights. I could plug this one end into the key out. And then I could have all my LEDs clip right on here, because now I've got extra exposed wire. So I could have all these running out to LEDs just on one wire. And they'll light up all these at the exact same time. Kind of like the little dipper project that I showed last time, where I pushed the astronaut and all these LED lights will light up. It's the same concept. So I'll plug this in. I won't run the whole code because I know that you saw it last time. But what this will do then is I have the same thing in the back. And so when I turn on this is a 1-button switch. This is a project we did for 4th graders talking about the constellation, if you remember that last 1-button touch switch, but they're all wired in. So it turns them all on. Well, that last one on the copper tape must be a little loose still. And so we do that by just creating some extra wire at the end. I know it seems simple, but a lot of people, they just haven't thought through that yet. And so that's how you start to make those things happen, because they're not really willing to strip installation off those white wires. They feel like it's because Makey sent it that they're kind of off limits. And so this is super cheap. I'll put a link also as well after the call where I buy that. I buy that in bulk as well. And so you've got all those options there as well. Before I jump over into a couple other projects, on those kind of quick little things I shared there, there any questions on any of those little kind of tips or tricks? I know they're nothing earth-shattering, but they're little things that just make your life easier. More importantly, it makes the educator's life easier as they start to kind of troubleshoot through some things. So if there's any question, you can type or jump on real quick. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next project to show you. All right, so if you have something, just throw it over in the chat, and I'll make sure I address it as we go. So here's a project that I just did with some math teachers. We actually use Makey and Scratch for 8th grade algebra class, covering the geometry standards. So one of the things that we were working on was just helping them understand how things work. And so a project, you can make this work in a million different ways, but I want to kind of I'll show you this simple project, and then I'll show you the coding and how we can kind of take things to the next level. So I just vinyl cut it, my name, because I was lazy and didn't feel like writing it. But this would just be cardboard. And one of the great projects that we do with educators is they have to, I call it animate your name. And so I know it's not the easiest to see, but this A is actually just filled in with the 6B granite pencil. I just have a metal brad here for the A. I have some pipe cleaner here for the R. This is actually just a nut and bolt system right there in the middle for the O. And these are just a bunch of little tiny staples. So the idea behind this is that we can use everyday materials to create triggers. I've got copper tape up top. This actually is going to serve as my ground. So if I touch this and then I touch any of these letters, it creates a connection. I'll show you the code here in just a minute, but you can see what I've done let me plug it in here, is I've added an LED light to the top. So if I can't see my Makey all the time, I can at least make sure I'm getting a connection, because at least the light would light up. And so I can go through and I know that I'm creating a connection. My body here, I'm hitting the A, it's triggering. Same thing with the Brad. The pipe cleaner is a little trickier because it is covered by the fuzzy stuff, but it does work. And so I can see that all that's working. I'm in good shape. On the back side, I know it looks like a terrible hot mess. But you can see that it's just all my wiring that you guys have been trying to explore. And so I won't try to break it down because it's just it's a little messy. I just pulled out of my suitcase from a workshop last week. But what I wanted to highlight was the LED light right here. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but I have a couple wires running off. So I have this alligator clip here, which is connected to the LED. And this wire actually runs over to what I showed you earlier of this Lego minifig. So I'm chaining my LED lights. And so I could have multiple things lighting up at once if I wanted to. And so that's where we can start to create some really kind of complex things. And so in the team drive, or on that team chat, I did put a link to the Scratch. And so you just saw this project, but let me show you what it does in Scratch. And you're not going to be able to see me push the buttons, but you just saw how that works. So let me change this to my screen. And hopefully you can see this Scratch program. And if you can't, someone jump on it and let me know. So what we're looking at here is just a simple thing. And this is really good for the educators to learn to kind of see how we can get to the next level with coding. So we introduce them to Scratch. In this case, every letter is a sprite. So in there where we would have a cat or we would have characters, my letters are each individual sprites. And what you can see then is I have different kind of coding, just real simple code. And their goal is every time we trigger a button on the nameplate, my name should go here, hence the animate your name project. And so when I turn this on, and I know you can't see me push the buttons, but when I tap the A button, we can see that my A makes a noise and spins. When I go here to this A, it'll start to spin here, I think, super fast. The R will change color and make that noise. I won't do that because that noise is really annoying. This one, the O gets really big. And then the N will start to multiply when I hit the N. And so then I have built in a trigger, so when I hit the W with my Lego minifig here, it should bring all these guys back and take it right back to normal. And so then I can go through and shrink these guys, and then I can kind of go through that way and bring everything kind of back to normal. And so this is a good activity, especially when I'm working with teachers or even the first time with kids with Scratch, to animate their name so they can kind of see how the physical computing works with the Makey. And they can have a lot of fun. These are all down here in the sprites. They could create their own letters if they wanted to, but they're all down here in the letters. So I just pulled these from here to start. If you want to get more advanced, you could design and decorate your own, but they're all right here in the letters. You just drag those in, and then you can just do your own coding. So this is really good for me to show them the possibilities besides just like moving over 10 blocks. We start to talk about how can we embed sound, how do we create animation, how do things move, and then more importantly, how do we reset it back to the start? Because a lot of people struggle with that as well. And so that's just one project that I've done now a couple times with teachers, and it's been really good for them to see that process before we do all those builds and switches and get those things in. But this one really kind of makes it personal. If it's local, I bring a vinyl cutter and I'll cut their names ahead of time so they have that as a template. If I travel, I don't. They just write out on paper or cardboard. And so this is just a really great activity. We've talked about doing it at the beginning of the year with kids where they can kind of introduce themselves. We could add to it later on where they could do 2 truths and a lie, where they could learn how to record their voice. and each letter could be a truth or a lie, that kind of thing. And all sorts of kind of cool things that kind of develop when we've done this project here a couple times. So I know I didn't go into super complex detail about that, but are there any questions in terms of that project or using Scratch with Makey as you started to explore that? Is there anything in that wheelhouse as you kind of see that you have questions on or want to know more about? I'll give you guys a second to either chime in there, or if I don't see anything, then I'll move on to the next one. Or if you have questions that you want me to answer too, this would probably be a good time so I can start to kind of process it in the back of my head here a little bit. So if you got other questions or things you want to know, start to type those in there or jump on the call. How long did the project take? You know, I would budget about 45 minutes to an hour. It's a big chunk, so something's going to have to go. So where I find a little bit of a disconnect, if you've ever done the official Makey training, is you go through and you do the circuits, which is important, and you go through and you make the single button switch, which is important, and then you challenge them to the 4-button switch. And depending on where you layer that in, if you do that after you do like sketching out stuff with the graphite pencil, people will start, just like kids, they'll just play games the whole time, and they kind of, which is okay, but they quit trying to learn the Makey application. Instead, they start looking for games. The other thing that's important to know, depending on your school district, a lot of games will be blocked or banned. And so then they have to go in and get into Scratch anyways to create an account. And so usually if that's the case, we just move right into this project because I know it's safe. I know Scratch won't be blocked. And I can get right into the learning and achieve the same thing. So it depends on my audience. But I have learned to not spend as much time on the 4-button or advanced switch and the graphite and more time on the physical computing. And then that's usually where I break now when I do it, where I break at lunch. And then when we come back, we move into what we call the demo or die, where they have to make their own project based on their own ideas. And then so we explore projects and ideas and all the different things that are available. And then they have to work to get something done to showcase by the end of the day. So we got some other questions in here. Yeah, so the right click. So if you look at the Makey, you just have the one click here. On the back, you do have, Brad, on the back, there's a plug for right and left click. There's nothing on the front for both clicks. It's just the one click on the front. Oh, not seeing my video. Let's see here. Jeez, sorry about that. Let me try this again here. Oh no, see that? Good. I think we're good now. Sorry about that. That somehow got locked out. Again here, sorry about that. On the back there, Brad, there on this one side, you'll see the icon. I know it's kind of hard to see in the video, but there is a right and left click option that you can use for the wires. Only one option on the front. So people are going to naturally start to get to advanced ideas. And so they keep forgetting about the back. And so you got to kind of keep referencing them. And it also makes them a little nervous. The one thing to remember too is that I can plug into the back anywhere and I can still use the ground. So a lot of times people think if I use the back, I have to use this ground plug. It doesn't matter. The ground is wherever you have your ground is really irrelevant. So it's not like this is its own component and the front is its own component. It's all feeding into the same Arduino microcontroller, really in the end. So that's how you would adjust the 2 clicks. And then obviously you have those other letter options as well. People will ask, can you do more than these letters? That's a common question that pops up. The answer is yes. And I tell them that's a different workshop when we actually have to do some manipulation to get into actual Arduino sketch code, which it's not even worth your time to even mention in the first workshop. So just tell them that yes, it's available, but no, you're not going to cover it. I don't think I've had a workshop now where that hasn't come up. So that's where the mouse clicks are. And then in terms of the coding, really in this Scratch, let me see if I can switch this over here and not mess it up again. So if I open up a new project, jump out of this one here. What we've got going on with the coding is everything has to be triggered through keyboard commands, because that's how the Makey works. The Makey is a keyboard. And so we'll just use this cat here just because he's sitting right there. This is my sprite, so I can control him to do whatever I want in Scratch. But in terms of the Makey, what I want to do is I need to control my characters or whatever I want to have happen on the screen with this button here, with the keyboard command button. And with this drop-down menu, I can pick what I want. So the up arrow is going to be in relation to the up arrow on the Makey when programmed correctly. Same with the down, the right, the left. The any, I mean, that would obviously be anything with that we touch. And then you could also program for the W, A, S, D, F, and G that's on the back of the Makey. And so we program that. So say I wanted him to, we'll just do this really generic one here. When the space bar is pressed, he's going to move 10 steps. And so when I turn my code on my Makey, and I know you can't see me, but if I were to hit the space bar with the ground on my Makey, he would move 10 steps. I could have this be whatever. I mean, I can have him turn color. I can have him turn around. One of the things that kids we do more and more of is having kids record their voice to demonstrate learning. So we could go in here to sounds. I don't know if it'll work because I have a microphone on, but I could record my voice. I don't think it's going to pick up because my mic's in use. But I could have this here of my learning, and I could say test 1. I could jump back over to my script. And then I could come over here and play this sound, and my test is right there. So if I hit the space bar, I don't know if it'll do it, but I could record my voice. I don't think it's going to pick up because my mic. Nope. So it did pick up, but there you go. So it did record my voice, so we could play it that way. So now start thinking about how kids and teachers could use the Makey to create these interactive displays. Parent-teacher night or conferences or exhibitions where they could come in, people could interact, and they could hear the kids explaining their learning, explaining their project, or telling a story. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at some of the flip grids, but there's some projects in there where they've used that, where a character moves along a storyline and they retell the story itself. And so the big thing with the Makey is using this key right here to control different options, So if I wanted, I could have another character. I could add a new sprite. I'll just add Abby here. And I could then have her own set of codes. So she could be controlled by the down arrow, and I could add this, and every time we do that, she'll say hello. So I could, when I run this, she would say hello. I could go in here and I could type, whatever I would want to. I could have her switch costumes. I mean, there's all sorts of different things. And we have questions on specific things we want to do with Scratch. Those are things that maybe we could do a follow-up on. Big thing with the Makey again is it's these controls under events where we can control the keyboard presses, because that's really all the Makey is. So let me see if I can bounce back out of here and not goof this up this time. So, Brad, I'm not sure if that really helped with your coding. If you want something more specific, just drop a line here in the chats, and I'll make sure that I take care of that for you. Are there other questions that people have? You've been exploring a little bit. Is there something you haven't been able to make work? Yeah, absolutely, Brad. You could definitely do this in Spanish and text. We've done that in a Spanish class before, and it works great. So it's perfect. What are other things that you're thinking about, whether it's in terms of a project idea that you have, maybe it's something you think about the workshop, classroom application? mean, some other things, maybe why you're thinking of some stuff here is you've seen the site that I've shared with you. Flipgrid works great. And so if you haven't had a chance, that's how I document the teachers. So what I do in my workshops, and you don't have to do it, this is just what I do. That's some requirements we have in the state of Iowa is when they go back, they actually have to use the learning. They have to apply the learning. So we use the Flipgrid where they can demonstrate and showcase what they're going to be doing. And so on that team or on that website, there's a link to all the Flipgrid that the teachers had to demonstrate. And I actually have a ton more that I need to put up there of how they actually use it, turn around and use it with kids. And so I just have to make sure I've got some permission rights. I got to get approval of by a couple schools. So you'll see the Flipgrid of them reviewing and reflecting on their learning. And then I have some I need to get loaded here before school starts again of the kids actually doing it. And it's awesome. And so, and the beauty of that is that it creates a gallery. So as you're working with teachers, you can keep showing like this works. Like this workshop isn't just a one day, yeah, it's fun. This workshop is actually moving into learning. And we'll look at these teachers. Like I'm not just, blowing a smoke up, up your rear end there a little bit. It's actually like it's making things happen. And so I think that part is really powerful. And so yeah, I've got it linked in the in there, and I can maybe jump over. I can show you. Maybe I'll talk through a couple of these projects here on this. And so I have this linked in the Teams on the Makey link. I know it's a Google shared photo album, so no one shoot harpoons at me. But so what we did in the workshop, I called it literally making, and the basis of this particular project was teach how to bring in a picture book, and then we had to bring learning to life through coding. And so the literally making is they had to create an activity where they would read a picture book at any grade level. So we're talking secondary down the preschool. And then the kids would use Makey to solve a problem or a challenge or something that was in the picture book. And so we spent a lot of time on that, developing these ideas. And so this one here, I'll just talk through some of these projects and maybe it'll trigger some ideas for you, is the beginning of a huge interactive, I don't know if anybody ever had like on the old Nintendo, the touchpad. We tried to beat the cheetah in track and field and things like that. This is you can step on it. This project took us forever because we actually had to hide all the wires underneath the steps. And so we had to really think through how do we keep the ground and our up or down arrow wires separated, but still create a cushion. And so she ended up building this, and she had the Flipgrid. You need to check it out. It's really good. We vinyl cut all these. She is now, actually, I was just in a training with her today. She has now made this all out of wood. The goal here then is to create it where it's so big. So these are the up, down, right, left arrows. And what you can't see in this picture is the A and B are on another piece of cardboard. So they actually have to work together to solve or to play the game. So that was part of the journey. This is the egg foil project that I was telling you about with the egg and the foil. So just look at this project and then check out how she transformed this. So we have this one here. This is how we were prototyping. There's a one button switch to trigger some things, and here are the buttons, right? And then she took it with a book about butterflies that she was teaching her kids. And so now this is like a model display. And so this is her as a teacher being a student. As we push each button, it talks about the life cycle of the monarch butterfly. And it's just, I love this. And she built all this. We got all this done in one afternoon. So this is our do or die. Teachers get about 90 minutes. And so we were able to complete all this and knock it out. And it was absolutely phenomenal. And so then she took this back, and then kids would have to create something of their own. Here is another project they're working on, a different kind of touchpad. So this one here is kind of like, think of Kahoot, but more interactive, where the kids are creating their own games. And then these are the buttons that you'd have to press for the right or wrong answer. She created a scratch that had these 4 quadrants on the screen with different answers. And so the kids would have to come up and they kept score and did all sorts of crazy things. So pretty phenomenal there. So here's another one, just another project where they're trying to work on, you get this high five, and it basically is going to give you positive comments. And so you high five, and it links into a robot that's supposed to do some audio. There's some video which I won't play. This one here, I'll see if I can find a better picture of this SOAR one. I think there is one down here. You can check these videos out on your own, but basically this is going to be in their hallway. This was a media specialist and 2 elementary teachers. This is in the hallway outside their cafeteria. And so they are a PBIS school. So when they're waiting to go into the cafeteria, they can touch these letters, and then it'll give them a question to think about, like behavior, how to respond, and then if they have good answers, then they can earn more tickets. And they were changing these questions up every week on the Scratch program. So this is wood. We vinyl cut it out, and we had to really think through their design. But really pretty cool thinking about, it's not just teaching kids coding, but how do we infuse this physical computing into the culture of our buildings? So really kind of cool idea that we had. I'm trying to think through. Some things don't work. Like here, we were mixing we made a hot glue mold. We 3D printed one, and then we infused the hot glue with acrylic paint. It didn't work. Here is one too, where this is actually a snake trap, to catch a snake. And so there's a whole entire Makey thing that's going into it, or so with a little fake mouse, and it tells a story for one of the mouse for the picture book that she was creating. So when it dropped down, the Makey would trigger an alarm. Here is I think a volcano, and then there's a bunch of LED lights. So they learn how to use hot glue for the first time and solder, and the volcano would erupt as different parts of the story would unfold. So those are just some projects from like the last thing that we did. Here's one, another cool video, but this Lego man is walking across with this book here, a phenomenal book. So they're just building different ideas of what kids could create. And this is a really cool project as well. She's got a Flipgrid video that you can check out there as well. So just some couple ideas, some videos for you to kind of look at. I think the important thing is it doesn't have to be beautiful. It's just the fact that we're getting them to actually do some stuff. I also put this link in case you haven't explored this yet on the Makey website. There is a tab called Apps. And when you go down there, there's more than just bongos and piano. This is a sampling sys, so you can record yourself, record a voice, and then you can kind of remix it with these different scales using the Makey. There's some games already in here. So these will work with your Makey, and I think they work for the most part, even if a school has games blocked. But down here, if you want to take some of your stuff to the next level, this sound plant is a really cool option where you can actually have more sounds into your keyboard. So you can impose different notes and sounds to make different sound effects when you're using stuff from Scratch. And so you can use sound plant to kind of remix the key map of your keyboard, which clicks with your Makey. And then here are just a bunch of other kind of presets. And so a lot of times if I have a teacher struggling, I will show them these, like just take a look at these, and then how could you remix one of these? How could you remix it to make it your own? And this usually kind of gets them going. If I have that educator, it's just really struggling, just doesn't have the confidence in themselves. They don't believe that they're creative, don't believe they can do this. And so this is usually where I go. Just to kind of let them know, like, yes, you can. Let's just start here, and let's just build those building blocks together. And so that's in the team links as well. Let's see here. I'm just jumping back into the chat because when I screen share, I can't see any of that. So you do not have a question about the soldering tool? No, you don't have to solder. And actually, in the first workshop, I don't even have it as an option. When I do some things locally, if I know I have some educators that I know are going to come with their A game, I'll have it available. But usually if I travel, I'm going out of town or something like that, no soldering. It overwhelms people. It can take away from the goals of what you're trying to do. But I do let them know that we can scale it out. We can take it to the next level. And so the beauty of the Makey is, yeah, we're plugging it in. Yeah, we can get some things to light up. But now we can teach more skills. We can talk about how to use a utility knife. We can talk about how to use a vinyl cutter to make things look beautiful. We can talk about, in the vinyl cutter, now we're getting into like design and elements and the way things look. And the soldering iron, how do we take things and make it permanent? Because the goal of this with alligator clips is prototyping. I can quickly make a mistake, but it's not ruined. Soldering is kind of more permanent. But we do have those conversations. And I've gone in and follow up and done soldering with kids as little as third grade, following some of these workshops. One of the things that I think is really important, Brady talked about tin foil. Start your workshop or when you're working with them and have them generate a list of things that are conductive and things that are not conductive. There's a couple great videos on YouTube you can show about this. It's just like 3 or 4 minutes of just crazy projects. But it's getting them to think about like water. Buckets of water are conductive. So you could take cups. I always have cups with me in my projects, and so I can dip an alligator clip in here. This is water. I have an alligator clip in the water like so, and then when I touch it, when I complete the circuit, it'll make music and make noise. So, think about all these different types of things that are conductive that they don't think about. And I think I shared this the last time too, but, just simple things. So I try to keep it where it's not very expensive. So paper clips, these metal brads work wonderful for poking into cardstock or cardboard and creating touch buttons and switches, because the beauty of these is I can push this through, a piece of cardboard, and I know what I need to press. It triggers a reaction to the interactive audience. But on the back side, this is what I can clip my alligator clips to. So I've got something good I can hold on to, which makes it really nice. So these are great to have. I mentioned like the staple, my animate your name. So just working through all these different types of things. Fruit and food, if you haven't done that, go grab a bananas, and you got to make a banana piano. You can't do Makey without at least doing that one time. The Play-Doh works phenomenal if you haven't messed with that. There's a really great book, and I think I have it linked on the website, by Colleen Graves. I don't know if you've seen this book. This has intermediate to advanced projects. I always bring this with, and actually in my local workshops, every participant gets a book. I don't do it when I travel outside of where I work for my day job. But Colleen Graves and her husband Aaron, this book has some crazy, crazy ideas. And so this is a good one to have when you're looking to scale out your ideas to the next level. Colleen actually just left education. I don't know if anybody knows Colleen. She is actually now working for Makey as of like 2 weeks ago, and her whole goal is creating projects. Which leads me to, if you're not part of the Makey Facebook group, make sure you get in there. That group is great, and they're really good at helping you. If you got stuck and need a question, they reach out all the time. And Colleen just posted a way to make a huge Makey for demo for like your workshops or your classroom. You can make this monstrous Makey. So definitely some things there to think about. And I can link that up. I'll make sure I link that link from the Facebook group in case you need that as well. So there's that. The other thing too is you can have more than one Makey. So people will get to a point where they're going to want maybe more than these controls or pins. And so you could have, depending on how many USB ports you have on your computer, I could have 2 Makeys running off one Scratch program. So just let them know that, people don't need to see what's kind of under the hood, so to speak. So I could have 2 or 3 Makeys under my hood of one project, all operating everything. So as you start to think about, a lot of people try to make like a whole entire piano set. So you're going to need different controls for all those different buttons. And so just thinking through some of those logistics, it's possible. It's just going to take a little bit more time, obviously in the building and the development. Let me see. Make sure I didn't miss anybody's questions. Any other thoughts or ideas? I could ramble on and on, but I want to be respectful of your time. And I've got about 10 more minutes myself, and then I have to go coach a basketball game for my son. But as we start to think about wrapping up, what are some thoughts going through your head? What are, has something stood out to you that you didn't think about before, but now you're thinking about doing or implementing? Where are you guys at mentally? So I'm just curious. Some of you've had a chance to mess with the kits. Some just got them literally hours ago. So how are we feeling about jumping in and doing some of this work?
And hey guys, you can come off mute and talk to Aaron if you want to. So that means everybody's mastered it, Aaron, right? Except
Hey, Aaron, I didn't master it, but I appreciated you showing the Scratch tonight. And I don't know Scratch either, but I feel like if I combine Makey with Scratch, that'll give me a reason to do both. So it sounds like it'll be fun tomorrow to do that.
Yeah, and Scratch works just like MakeCode is. If you've done some with MakeCode, you're going to be like, this is almost the same, and the answer is yes. I mean, it's that drag and drop block feature. The other thing with Scratch is really nice. I can't remember what they're up to. I don't know if they're over 1 million yet, but there's probably, I want to say at ISTE, Mitch Resnick said there's like about 700,000 projects. And don't quote me on that. So you can go in and search. If you're looking for a type of Scratch project, you can go in, find one, and then there's a remix button on there, and you can it'll make a copy for you to then manipulate and make it your own. So they believe in beg, borrowing is stealing in MIT, and especially with Scratch. And so learn on your own, but if you're looking for something, they actually encourage that type of community and activity. So make sure you search around in there as well. There's some crazy things. And on the Makey website, there is the labs. There's a link for it's called the labs, and it's full of projects where people share all their projects. So there's kids and teachers and all sorts of people. There's so many amazing project ideas. Some so simple, you're just like, oh my gosh, how did I not think of that? And then obviously more complex. So there's definitely a lot of resources out there. The website also has in PDFs. Makey has provided these curriculum guides, so I always make sure teachers are aware of this. They have one that's around sample lesson plans aligned to standards of various grades and subject areas. They have another one. This is kind of educator's guide. It's not real in depth, but it does walk them through some of the basics of just kind of what it is, how it works, and this is always nice to have. And then the one I love just shows, lessons using Makey and Lego. So these things are available as well on the website. I just print them off and bind them for my participants. Once again, you don't have to do that. But these are nice for some teachers to kind of flip through as they get working through. Oh yeah, Connect sculpture class. This would be it'd be amazing. You could start to think about, could you create like touch points and different things like that where they could kind of highlight different parts of. Yeah, I mean, it's just insane what you're going to be able to do. One of the things that I haven't had time to do that I want to explore a little bit, I'm assuming it would work, but I haven't messed with Makey yet in terms of would it work with MakeCode. So that's my next endeavor in all my free time, but thinking about that, because then just like we can do with like Minecraft education, with the microbit or circuit playground, you could maybe start to manipulate Minecraft with Makey. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but it's on my to-do list. So just is occurred to think about that. The other thing to be aware of is, remember, here in a couple weeks, Scratch 3.0 comes out. So the new interface will come. If you haven't done that, the preview beta build is available. It's just going to give us so many more options. Scratch originals or Scratch 2.0 will still be available, but just be aware if you do any trainings between now and the middle of August, Scratch is going to be launching out Scratch 3.0, and it's just going to change things. So sometimes people get excited, sometimes it makes people nervous. I just keep it in the back of your mind. They don't lose anything. They're not going to be everything in Scratch 2.0 will work in Scratch 3.0. But some people will have questions about it if they're a little bit tech savvy, and so just making sure that they will be aware of that. Small learning curve. I think that's Maria that asked about the 2.0 to 3.0. Yeah, it's Maria. Just way more amazing options. You're going to be able in 3.0 with Scratch, be able to connect it now with microbit. I mean, it looks just. They're opening it up to be almost just like MakeCode. It'll work with Lego, it'll work with everything else. The panels have shifted a little bit, but there's just more color, there's more blocks, there's more animation, there's more sound effects. So it's just more of all the things that people love. So there's nothing major in terms of like you have to start all over in your learning. If anything else, it's really just helping people realize like, oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. Now you have so many more ways to express how you want to express yourself. Because there's been some blocks missing that people like, I just wish there was this and that. And so they've been taking that feedback, and I think it's going to be really good. But if you search Scratch 3.0 on your web browser, it should link you to the preview build, and you can jump around in there and play around with it. You'll see that it's not too big of a deal. Brady asked about the handbook. It's on the Makey website. I'll make sure I link directly to it in the team. But if you go to Makey's website, there it is. Yeah. So I printed the PDF off, and then we've got a print shop where I work, and they just bound it together. But yeah, so it's all right there. And I know they keep adding different things to it. I know they've been working on some new things to get out as well. There you go. Thanks, Sandy, the Soundless. So maybe as we kind of wrap up here, if we start to think about it, once again, the biggest thing is just to keep playing, exploring, working through those things. Not that I want to self-promote, but I will be launching I've got the self-paced learning course right now that some of you have gone through, and so I appreciate that. And if you do go through it, any feedback would be great. I'm getting that cleaned up based on feedback from students. But self-paced learning course 2 is going to be going live probably the 3rd week of August, and that's going to be an intermediate pacing guide. So taking some of these ideas, but going more advanced into next stuff. And so I hope to have that out, and that's just more resources for students and teachers to have. Not that you have to share that, but just trying to create some ways as people go back in the classroom, they don't panic and give up, but they can say, oh my gosh, I have something here that I can use that's been created. And sometimes that's all they need. They just need a little nudge there.
So any more questions for Aaron, guys? We know that he's busy tonight, so we'll let him get to his game and put on his coaching hat. But pretty soon we hope that we're out training Makey, and Aaron's gave us a really good start, and we're going to work together a little bit more to think about how that looks for NCCU trainings, exactly. So he's on board, and he's going to help us with that. Right, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I think just, if you guys get doing too, like I said, if you just need to shoot me a question or jump on a Skype call, you get stuck on something, just feel free to reach out. Always glad to help if I'm available. Just return the favor to so many of you that have helped me along the way. So if you do get stuck, honestly, feel free to shoot me a message. It's what we do for one another. And I'm just excited to see this come in and see a lot of people diving into the Makey because it's a great little product that can really do a lot for learning. I try to think it's more than just coding and physical computing, but it's also getting kids to learn how to express themselves and learn how to express their ideas in a way that maybe they didn't think was possible. So, as we start to think about all those different lenses of how it can be used, that there's just a lot of power in there.
Okay, guys. Unless somebody speaks up and says I have some more questions, we'll go ahead and sign off. But Aaron, this is fabulous. You're great. So fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. I got a couple other projects hopefully to get done, and I'll be sharing those as well. And I just need a few more hours in my day, like everybody, right?
Well, thank you for sharing your learning. We do appreciate it. Makes us all stronger.
That's right. Anytime.
Good night, guys. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.